Welcome to Channel AMAC, your insight to the Australian visa system. Good day everyone, my name is Carl Yang, your online YouTube visa consultant. Are you interested about migrating to Australia? Why don't you consider to subscribe to my channel and turn on the bell on the side, so once we have all the updates and news, you'll be the first one getting all the insight. Now we have recently successfully got a client, an applicant, to gone through the skill employer sponsorship under the TSS visa with the occupation of so-called small goods maker. Well, you can call it butcher. Now, how did the guy actually got this sponsorship? It's actually quite hard, but a lot of people may heard that how could a butcher actually be sponsored and work there and get and 2 years later on to actually transfer to a permanent resident. It sounds pretty easy. I understand that being a butcher or working in a slaughterhouse or abattoir is somehow considered in Asia not a high level skill employment. Now the question comes. Now everybody may raise their hand and say, "Look, I want to be I want to be a butcher. I can work in the factory or abattoir or slaughterhouse, whichever it is." But the problem is, it's still very complicated, and that is why we are making this video to actually show you how complicated that is. Now, first of all, there is no, from what I've known, a traditional course provided offshore to actually train these small goods maker or butchers or meat cutters, or whichever name that you wanted to to name it anyway. Thus, it's actually quite hard, and I don't think there is anyone out there holding some sort of certificate saying, "Look, I am certified butcher. I wanted to come to Australia and work in a butchery or whichever the shop or factory or meat factory." That's how should I say it anyway. Okay, so it's actually quite hard because there's no I not many times actually seeing anyone actually go through skill assessment. First of all, it's rare. However, I understand a lot of people may think it's an easy job. It's not actually an easy job. You're actually working in a very cold environment, because the condition has to be under a freeze level for all these meat stores and things like that. But anyhow, let's have a look at how the law and the criteria and definitions, should we? So you understand the whole procedures, how we actually got these people through. So now, first of all, let's go into the skill occupation list webpage provided by the Department of Home Affairs. Why do we go here? Because I wanted to show you how we navigate and find the occupation first. Now, so what we do is we go down to the search engine here and basically punching small, and there's only rare that you will come up with the first one with the butcher or small goods maker under the ends code 351211. As you can see, it's available for 190 visa, 407, 489, 482, 187, 494, 491, 186, and it's under the short-term occupation list there. So what we have done is we have successfully facilitate and get the clients to actually obtain the 482 temporary skill shortage visa with a short-term stream. Now he did not go through the skill assessing authority. Why? Because under the TSS visa only for particular countries, for example, China, Hong Kong, India, I think Pakistan is in there as well. Hong Kong required to go through skill assessment. If your client or if you hold passport or others, you're not required to go through skill assessment. So and it's written on the legislative instrument. So you need to check whichever the country and then see how that goes. So our client actually coming from Taiwan, and it's not saying exam, but the passport, country of passport is not required to go through skill assessment. So then the next thing is when we need to go and check out the definition from the ENSCO, how the Australian government actually defined the actual occupation of small goods maker under the ENSCO 351211. So we then will require to navigate to go through the Australian Bureau of Statistics and basically find out the exact occupation. As you can see here, unit group 3512 butcher and small goods maker, and then we navigate how Australian standard actually qualify this occupation. So we can see here, it says in Australia, there is an Australian qualification framework certificate 3, including 2 years of on-job training will be required. But we need to continue to read on further down. But it says here, this is a very important one. So it says at least 3 years of relevant work experience may substitute the formal qualification listed above. Now, what does that mean? Now that's a very important one. That means if you don't have the qualification, you don't have the certificate 3 of whichever the courses that require, but you do have at least 3 years of, so basically you've been hired, employed at the butchery, okay, just or meat factories. It can be in Australia, it can be outside of Australia, and you have been working full-time there as a cutter or as a small goods maker, that's how they call it anyway, then that will basically equals the Australian standard of having that certificate 3. Okay, so that's important part, and that is what we have relied on. In some certain instance, relevant experience and on-job training may be required additional formal qualifications. So what we have done here is basically going back to the client and ask him whether he has already got, because for sure he doesn't have a certificate of a small goods maker, but he does have more than 3 years of work experiences as a small goods maker or meat cutter or slicer or whatever you name it. Okay, so then further on, how we navigate through the criteria to actually meet the visa application is then we obviously go into the eligibility of the requirement from the TSS, temporary skill shortage. So what we do is down here eligibility, and then obviously you will see that there's a requirement here that the applicant or the client would have worked in a nominated occupation or related field for at least 2 years, and when you expand it, you will have more detail there. So again, you say work experience again related, involved tasks, same or related, those nominated position you intend to work outline in the ENSCO. ENSCO is exactly what we have. The Australian New Zealand standard classification of occupation is exactly what we have just been through here on this page. So again, you notice that 3 years of work experiences can actually be deemed to be the qualification equal to certificate 3. So it says here further onwards, generally you should have gained work experience on a full-time basis on at least 5 years. The period does not need to be continuous. Now that is for professional. If you go into ENSCO, start with 2, for example, accountants or IT people, yeah, they're 5 years without qualification, 5 years of work, full-time work experience can substitute their qualification. That means bachelor. But for certificate 3 or 4, 3 years is required, as we read it here. It says 3 years. Now, because the requirement for this actually reads have worked in nominated occupation in field last 2 years. Now you may argue that we need to see here, it says must have at least 2 years of work experience nominated occupation related field. Now you may argue that the client already got 3 years, and does that meet the requirement? Now first of all, how we assess it is that the first 3 years deemed to be the actual qualification required under the ENSCO requirements. So the first 3 years equals to certificate 3. and plus the requirement for 482 visa, the 2 years, that will means the applicant will require to demonstrate have 5 years full-time work experiences. Now, this may be getting your head a little bit harder, but why 5 years? Because the first 3 years equals to the certificate 3 requires under the Australian standards. And the next 2 years further onward within that 5 years will actually meet the requirement of what 482 visa requires. So this guy, now, the next question is, a lot of people may ask, now how did this guy actually get 5 years work experience? Now, that is $1 million question. It's actually very hard, and it's an opportunity of a lifetime. Now, how he actually got that is he actually came to Australia before pandemic with a working holiday visa, and then he extended further 1 year, and then obviously we have just gone through a 2 or 3 years of COVID. So the COVID visa 408 was further applied by this client. So he actually had been in Australia and working as a small goods maker or butcher since 2019, and until today. That's where we got the 5 years of full-time work experiences. It's considered very, very lucky because not many people could actually get 5 years of work experiences or related visa in Australia. But that's how they actually got the work experiences, that how we utilize it to assess it as the requirement to be a deemed skilled worker, and plus including that 2 years requirement of the 482 visa criteria. Sounds very complex, right? Yes, then that's the reason we're doing this video for you. Anyway, should you have more question, query, more than welcome to leave comment right down below, and I'll see you next video. Goodbye.